Hello everyone, here we are again in Earth Defense Force Insect Armageddon, and today we're picking up in Chapter 2-2, Predation. This chapter is pretty interesting. I think there are a lot of larger enemies to fight, larger encounters. They give you decent amounts of room to work with, so it can actually be pretty entertaining. And as you see here, we're using two different weapons. The first is the Bohemsches Bay that launches this massive AoE blast. The gun actually has about 6,000 damage for the total, spread across 3 different shots at 2,000 each, so it actually deals a ton, and that is because it is a level 7 weapon. Yes, I actually spent some time off camera, and when I say some time, I mean too much time, grinding out levels. So we actually do have a level 8 character, which is why we have the larger health bar, along with the better weapons. So should be able to clear our way through the rest of the campaign and show off all of that relatively easily. We are playing on the hard difficulty, goes medium hard Inferno. I did have to play on Inferno in order to grind my way up here. You can only get to a maximum of level 7 on the hard difficulty. You can only reach 8 in Inferno. So it forces you to at least see what that difficulty has to offer. If you didn't, I think you would go crazy, because even playing on Inferno, I went a little bit crazy. You see a lot of the same levels, especially on that difficulty. The later levels are much more of a pain than they are a pleasure, so you'll get a taste for that. Nothing really too serious from this. So, as you can see, there's already a giant bomber spider, some waves of ants. We do have to clear out some enemies back here still, which I always forget about. I seem to pass them up. So let's see, what else is there to talk about as far as shop things go? I think that takes care of all of it. I actually did... so basically when you get to level 7, all of the weapons cost somewhere between, I want to say it's $90,000 and $250,000, somewhere in that range, except for any of the ones that you may have picked up beforehand. In this case, the Bohemsches Bay was actually one that I picked up beforehand, which was the main reason that I decided to experiment with it. But basically, that's the point in the game where you don't have enough money to buy weapons to test them out, so you have to figure out, before purchasing them, which ones are better to use. Or else you're just going to be stuck with a crappy weapon for a few hours, and that is no good. And I say a few hours, it took me 16 total hours to get to this point.
There must be nothing left of it. But where is the transponder? They're built to survive just about anything.
So that is the point where you do actually want to get out your spreadsheets, figure out your DPS, use the calculations that I've been talking about. It's just the total damage divided by the total cycle time to figure out the sustained damage. You can also take out from the cycle time the reload time to assume you have a full gun to see what the burst damage for the weapon is, which might be another useful metric to have when trying to objectively quantify which weapons are better than the other. So now we get introduced to this boss, and I'll try not to take it out so that way we can see a few of its moves. So that's its first. It just does an AoE blast after doing a little shudder, which as a flight class, we can just kind of move back from it. We have the fastest movement speed of each class, I believe. That little temper tantrum attack is not too bad. Another one of those.
Copy that.
And then his final attack is that he's going to throw out a shockwave. And as the flight class, we can just jump over that. So this boss is really neutered by our choice in class right now. For some other classes, the flight, if you just do 2 little side dodges like that, it's not too bad. My AI is a little bit dumb, but looks like he's going to be able to get the revive, so we're good. So yeah, DPS. This gun, the Bohemsches Bay, has a DPS in the 5,000s for both burst and for sustained damage, which is some of the best DPS that you get to see in the game, which I was actually really surprised by. It also has a massive, almost suicidal AoE. So it deals a ton of damage to a ton of creatures. I'm calling it right now, it's probably the best weapon for this class. Not sure if it was included in any of the DLC packages, but if you see this one, get used to using it. It can carry you through Inferno. The other weapon that I'm using, I was just trying out. I was trying out a few of them. There's a missile launcher that doesn't actually heat seek, but fires 8 missiles in a row. I actually miscalculated the DPS on it. It should be higher than it is, so it actually might be the only gun that out damages this one. So basically, keys to this level, take out the boss guys first, especially the bomber spiders. You can usually ignore the mantis while you're taking out the spider. if one so spawns. Spoiler alert, one might. You're going to see those carriers up there. They generally don't become a problem. It's just kind of a slow grind to get them down. So yeah, going into it, the machine guns for this class are all pretty well equal at the level 7 level. So you don't have to worry too much about which one you pick. That all comes down to personal preference. I would say if you're using this Bohamptious Bay weapon though, you need something that can absolutely take out these carriers. There are a lot of them in later chapters, and I was using the improved Goat Shriek, which has 5 different lock-ons. So whenever I'd fire it, it would pick 4 targets that weren't one of the carrier bays and 1 carrier bay, so it took forever to grind them out. So that's the main reason that I have this Lycanzite, that's what I'm going to go with, is to deal damage to the carriers. You could also use a machine gun for this. You could also use, I believe it's called the Skillet class rocket launcher, because the Skillet only has a single target, so if you get it to lock on to the bay, which is a pretty substantial if, but if you do, then it's going to do a lot of damage. Now, not showing on Inferno because I wanted to pass time a little quickly here, but as soon as you're finished firing on that, you just fire into this ditch with some kind of AoE weapon. If it's able to take out the ants like this one can, absolutely no problem. So that's just kind of the general strategy for this particular section. The other carrier, actually most of the enemies don't really get over to you. I've never felt too threatened by it. So that's one down. So we'll to reload. And again, just try and keep in mind which weapon you're using to damage the carrier. Currently, it's our Lycanzite. The Bohamptious Bay is for taking out all the other enemies. I was about to call them creeps. They're not. So you want to make sure that your gun is full immediately after the bays close. If your gun's full, then you can get in the full round of DPS. You can use the burst damage instead of your sustained damage, which is significantly better, as you should know. So we'll reload right afterwards, go in, mop up the ground troops. Should just be a few quick blasts. There we go. And then we just get to play the waiting game. And on harder difficulties, this is definitely much more of a pain, because you have to go through this process, I don't know, several times. On the big trash island, the level with the giant spider and the teeny island after the flight section, oh man, I was there for probably half an hour just trying to grind that thing out, and it was at the point where my score was in, I think, the 30,000s, and I was like, I'm not leaving these points behind if it gets me closer to a level. But oh man, it was painfully slow. Alright, so as I said before, the Mantis, most of his attacks are actually pretty well concentrated. You don't have to keep him too much in mind. The biggest thing that he can do is his little shockwave thingy at you. So as long as your teammates are kind of taking the front for that, you can focus on the Bomber Spider. It is advisable every once in a while, keep an eye on your teammates' health. I'm sure that they were pretty close to full there, but just pick up a health pack every once in a while. Your health packs heal them, so might as well. And they're taking a lot of damage now, so do want to rush over and get picked up. They get a full heal when they revive, so I'm not worried about the other guy. And this is Happy Magical Christmas time because both of the enemies are standing within the blast zone, so you just get to lay into them. The only considerable downside to using this Bohamptious Bay is the energy consumption for it, especially in mid-flight, makes it so that it fires so quickly if you hit the active reloads that it actually drains your overall energy pool, so you can wind up getting a net loss from shooting it, which is, I mean, it's not the worst. Not the worst problem to have that you're shooting so much that you run out of bullets, but can be kind of inconvenience, especially if you don't hit the, if you run low, if you mismanage that. So here are a few more of these guys. We'll see later that they become an absolute nightmare to deal with, but we actually have a trump card for them, as you'll see when we get to that level, which I'm pretty excited about. So just kind of mopping up the remainder of the guys, and that is going to take us out of this level. Unfortunately, we didn't get any new pickups, but that's probably because I've been grinding in this game for a while.
Proceed to rally point.
Alright, and that takes us to the rally point, and as you'll see, we'll get no experience out of this because we're max level, but we will still get to keep all the different weapons and stuff. So, pretty fun chapter to play. Oh, we actually did pick up a new shotgun for the battle class. Nothing else new. So, I will see you guys at the next chapter.